Hey everybody, it's Phil Strizillo from Select Software, and today we're talking about applicant tracking systems. I want to give a quick overview for those of you who are looking at buying a new ATS. What do you need to know to get started? That's what this page is really all about. We've done a lot of research talking to practitioners on the HR and people ops side, as well as people on the recruiting side, hiring managers, all the sort of key internal stakeholders. We've done demos with all the key products to narrow it down to a short list. There's literally 200 or 300 vendors in this ecosystem. We want to tell you who are the right ones to talk to, what should you ask them on demos, how do you think about ROI, getting the budget for this, implementation, everything you need to know to be successful, make the right decision. And this video is really sort of a quick overview of those key things. Okay, so let's start off with pricing and ROI. The reason I think this is important is because you're either going to be looking at a premium offering or you're not. If you're coming from a world where you're using spreadsheets today and maybe you're only hiring a couple people a year, maybe hiring is actually not super core to your business, you're probably not going to be looking at the best applicant tracking systems. And this page really is all about the best ATSs regardless of price. Some of these are premium priced models. So keep that in mind when you're looking at our page. We do have a blog post. If you Google free ATS, Select Software, you'll find it, that has some of the more cheaper options. Some of the options below do have free plans or really low cost pricing, but really they're for premium. They're for companies where the applicant tracking system is core to the strategic outcome of the business. It's not just, glorified Excel spreadsheet sort of thing. So that's really something that you got to figure out in your organization. Are you going to go for something that you spend $1,000 a year on, or are you willing to spend more to get some of these core features that we'll talk about in a second? Pricing models for your business. You might have a lot of employees, but 2 HR admin or vice versa. There are companies that charge based on how many seats you've got, how many employees you've got, how many recs that you have, how many recs you have open at a given time. Be cognizant of the pricing models of the different systems. If you've got a couple that you're sort of playing off each other in that final negotiation, try to figure out a price and a pricing system that makes sense for you. And we're gonna get back to this in a second, but the pro tip here is to think long-term, especially with pricing, because in 3 or 4 or 5 years, if your organization is gonna look very different, you're gonna wanna make sure that you're in a good place with the system that you select today, because realistically, it's hard to rip and replace these systems. You wanna figure out something that's gonna be your partner in the long term because it's so hard to change. Okay, lastly, ROI. We've got a whole video below in an Excel spreadsheet you can download to think about ROI. For companies that are going from spreadsheet to an applicant tracking system for the first time, it's probably about administrative burden. It might be about compliance issues. For companies that are like, look, we've got to hire software engineers, we've got to hire salespeople that are on quota, technical marketers, we want to increase our diversity and quotient, all these like hard to do talent acquisition things. The ROI might be more along the lines of time to fill. It might be along the lines of cost per hire. It also might be to fulfill OKRs and key objectives that your business has, like increasing your diversity of engineers, etc., etc. So definitely think about those things, build the model, use the Excel spreadsheet that we've got here for you guys. And then another pro tip here is 6 months after you implement this thing, go back to that Excel model, put a little thing in your calendar to go back and look at what you got right and what you got wrong. Is time to fill actually lower than you thought? Is cost per hire lower or higher, and why? What happened? Great learning experience and a great thing to probably brag about internally about, hey, look at all this cool stuff that we're doing on the people ops side of things. Okay, so after you figured out, hey, premium versus non-premium, are we really gonna go with one of the best applicant tracking systems, or are we just gonna get an ATS? Maybe we're gonna partner up with, we use XYZ company for payroll, let's just use their ATS, even though maybe it's a piece of garbage. You gotta think about the feature set. And we've literally got a spreadsheet, again, below, click down the spreadsheet, go nuts, with 300 different questions in it that you can ask applicant tracking system vendors. It's a little crazy, it's a little detailed. You've got to pick out what are the top 6 or 7 things we need to have. Maybe it's an integration with your HRIS. Maybe it's something related to, sourcing, because sourcing is the thing that you are buying a new ATS for. And then what are like the 7 or 8 things that are the sort of tiebreakers, the nice to haves, the things that you really want, but maybe you don't need. There's a couple of cool things here that we like to think about in terms of the buckets of features. One is employer branding. This is candidate experience, so ease of apply, mobile apply, being able to do things like check your status within the application process, maybe career site module, maybe it's talent communities, rediscovery. Look in your ATS right now. How many people have applied for jobs in the last couple of years? It's probably thousands, tens of thousands, 100,000s, millions, depending on how big your company is. That's a gold mine that most companies are just sitting on. The new sort of best applicant tracking systems have the ability to say, oh, okay, you're recruiting for a Java engineer in Boston. All right, well, you've got 70 people in your ATS right now who would be a good fit for that. You should probably talk to those people first because they're already familiar with you. They're much more likely to respond to your sourcing efforts. The last thing here is integrations. Some of these applicant tracking systems have done a phenomenal job of building out open APIs that allow lots of different services and pieces of software to connect into them. That makes it pretty powerful. Caveat here, another pro tip, make sure that you're not getting charged for all the extra integrations. There are some ATSs that for every job board or sourcing tool or whatever that you hook into it, they're going to try to nickel and dime you on it. But others are just sort of like open. It's the Salesforce model, it's the Shopify model. Hey, we've got the platform, and then we're going to allow all these other value-added vendors to build stuff on top of our very robust API. That can make your life a lot easier as a recruiter or people ops person in the short term. And then again, it's all about thinking long term with this stuff. Where are we going to be as a business in a year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now? Because your ATS, you're not going to replace it in 6 months. If it's terrible, you're stuck with it for at least a year, and that's the minimum, right? So you want to think about what are all these things that matter on a long-term basis because of that simple fact that this is going to be something that you live with for a really long time. Don't let that scare you. Just do your homework, make your best decision now based on the data that you've got, but definitely think about, hey, how does this pricing model affect us? How do these integrations, how do these feature sets affect us in the long term, not just what we're focused on in the here and now. Filters will list select software reviews. Thanks a lot for checking out this page. We value the input of HR professionals, people who are actually out there doing the work. And that's actually how we put together all of our content on these different vendor ecosystems. So if you want to share your knowledge, shoot us an email, go to the contact page. Hey, you guys are missing this vendor, or hey, here's a really interesting way that I thought about internal stakeholder management. Whatever the case may be, we're always looking for new knowledge to share with our community, and we really appreciate all the folks that contribute to us on a monthly basis. Good luck.